Today we're going to talk about titles and all of their pesky little problems. And there are a lot of them. Titles have been causing problems for people of all ages for as long as I can remember. Problem number 1 with titles. Is it a title or is it just a proper noun? Let's look at some examples. In general, we say that if something is a work of art, then it is called a title. If it is not a work of art, it is considered a proper noun. For example, just a name, Jamie. Jamie's not a work of art, he's a person. Proper noun. Ford F-150. Not a work of art, just the name of a car. Proper noun. The Mona Lisa, one of the most famous paintings of all time. If it's a painting, it's definitely a work of art. That's a title. Wolf Brand chili. Really yummy, but not a work of art. That's a proper noun. The Wizard of Oz. Mrs. Brandenburger's favorite movie. Definitely a work of art. Empire State Building. Although it's really cool, it's not considered a work of art. Buildings are not. That's a proper name. Proper noun. Golden Gate Bridge. Proper noun. Not a work of art. The Empire Strikes Back. One of my favorite Star Wars movies. Work of art. That is a title. It helps me to think of it this way. A proper noun is just the name of something. But a title is something you give something that you created, that you want to show off, that you're proud of. You want people to be able to walk by and say, look at my painting. It's called the Mona Lisa. Look at this movie that I created. It's called The Wizard of Oz. That's the title of my movie. I just wrote this book. Here's the title of my book. It's something I created that I want everyone to be able to notice and find. Whereas Ford F-150 is not the title of my one work of art. It's just the type of car. Once you figure out whether something is a title or a proper noun, you'd think things would get easier, but they don't. Pesky problem number 2. Some titles get underlined or italicized. Some titles get quotation marks instead. And some don't get any marks at all, which, as you can see, is very frustrating, because once you decide it's a title, you think your problems are over, but they're only beginning. The first step in solving pesky problem number 2, which is overwhelming, is deciding what are works of art anyway. First of all, music. It's a work of art. It's something creative that someone creates. Paintings, obviously works of art. Some works of art aren't so obvious, like books, but they are. Poems, also works of art. Sculptures are works of art. What about TV and radio shows? Well, those are written by someone, just like books and poems, and they also include pictures like paintings, so TV and radio shows are also considered works of art. Newspapers, those are written just like books and poems, so those are works of art. Sorry, I'm trying to scoot this around a little bit. Websites, also written by someone, they are considered works of art. Now here's where it gets tricky. The Bible, is that written by someone? Yes, but it's not considered a work of art. It's considered inspired by God, and so it's not a person that creates it, so it's not considered a work of art. How about the Declaration of Independence? That's written by someone, but it's not a creative writing, so it's considered not a work of art. The U.S. Constitution, same thing. It gets capitalized. All of these are capitalized as proper nouns, but they're not considered works of art. So although they are titles in a way, they're not titles that are going to get quotation marks or italics. Weirdly, although architecture is created, and I think it's very artistic and beautiful. My opinion doesn't count. It's not considered a work of art that gets italicized or quotation marks. And weirdly enough, I'm going to move this up a little bit so I have some more room. Sorry. Boats, airplanes, trains, and submarines. You would think that the names of these would not be titles or works of art, but they are. I don't know. I don't make the rules, guys. I'm just telling you what they are. And apparently I can't get this to go where it's supposed to. Once you've decided which ones are works of art that get italics and quotation marks, you have to decide which one of these they get. The rule is that if they're big whole things, they get italics, which are these funny little kind of sideways letters. See how these are all straight? Italics are a little bit crooked. And if you're writing with your pencil, you can't really make italics. So instead of making italics, you underline it like that. If they're big whole works, they get italics. And I remember that because big whole things need a long bench to sit on, whereas little things can just swing up in the air like quotation marks. So let's look. Which one of these get italics? They're big whole things. And which ones get quotation marks? Well, boats, airplanes, trains, submarines. Big whole or little pieces? Definitely big whole. Those get italics. TV and radio shows. Big whole. An entire music CD. That's going to get italics and underlined because it's a big whole thing. But one song would only get quotation marks. One whole book of poems would get italics or be underlined. But one poem would get quotation marks. Books, big whole, get underlined or italicized. Sculptures, underlined. A whole website, underlined. A whole painting, underlined. A whole newspaper would be underlined or italicized. Just to review, if it's a work of art, it's going to be called a title instead of proper nouns. Big whole works of art either get underlined or we type them using different kinds of italics. If it's a small piece of a work of art, like one song or one poem, we use quotation marks instead of underlining and italics to show that it's not a whole big thing. Remember, there are lots of things that sort of break the rule, things that are not considered works of art that get italics and quotation marks. This is a chart that you might want to pause and read just to kind of help you understand that, again, big things like these are all going to be underlined and italicized if they're titles. These titles are not going to get underlined. They're going to be quotation marks because they're little bitty tiny pieces. And these things, even though they are sometimes considered works of art by some people, things like the Bible or legal documents or declarations, these might be close to works of art, but they're not really considered that, so they don't get any marks at all. They're just proper nouns. Now you need a piece of notebook paper, and you're going to draw on your notebook paper this exact chart. You might pause the video until you get your chart drawn, and then come back and start your video again. Once you have your chart, you're going to take these 4 titles. They are all works of art. You have a TV show, a poem, a song, and a movie. And on your chart, you need to write those titles on the correct side of the chart. Then keep your chart in your writing folder until I get a chance to conference with you about it.